Oh my God, are you guys as shocked as I am? This has been a crazy night of hockey. I cannot believe that I'm standing here actually having a conversation about this, that this actually happened. I have no intentions of making a video, anything close to this. It was just a kind of a magical game that just took place. If you guys are not aware, there's no easy way to say this, but a 42-year-old Zamboni driver for the Toronto Marlies was called in an emergency level to play for the Carolina Hurricanes and won the game. The Carolina Hurricanes defeated the Toronto Maple Leafs 6-3. Carolina had over 50 shots. Now, there's a lot of things in this video that we're going to talk about, mainly some of the funny tweets. That's kind of the whole point of this video. But in all seriousness, before we get into the funny stuff, Carolina had 50 shots or close to 50 shots on net. I don't necessarily blame Anderson. He led in all 6 goals, but there were so many defensive collapses by Toronto. Some of the worst defensive hockey I've ever seen in my entire life. I can't even believe that the lack of heart in the third period. Now, they did score 2 goals on the guy in their first 2 shots. He saved the third shot and then didn't let anything in the third period. But the entire third period, the lack of execution, the lack of heart, I'm embarrassed for Leaf fans. I'm a Canadiens fan, so if this happened to my team, I would probably just turn my phone off for a week, because I would not want to hear the relentless chirps and see the relentless memes on social media. I can't even imagine how bad Leaf fans feel. And it's not like they put up an effort and just couldn't score because maybe he was in a magical moment and made all the saves. They didn't even try. And when they did try, they missed the net and they lost the puck in the offensive zone, breakdowns in the neutral zone. It was an embarrassing level of hockey by the Toronto Maple Leafs in the last period of that hockey game. But it led to this amazing moment that many of us will never forget. If you watch the game live, you'll never forget it. If you were there, you'll never forget it. The players will never forget it. It's an incredible moment, and Twitter exploded, and we kind of want to read some of the tweets because they're awesome. So Jason's joining me here for this video, and he's going to read some of the tweets. We've got them screenshotted, and I'll pass it off to you because we only have one mic. That's kind of the problems of filming this last minute. We don't actually have all of our equipment here, but Jason, take it away. Let's hear some of these funny tweets.
All right. So we're literally hanging out on Saturday night, not making videos. We're just like hanging out watching hockey. And then it's like, okay, we got to make a video on this.
You can't not.
There's one thing I'll say before I get into the tweets is, following up what Neil just said, it looked like Toronto was the nervous team in the third period.
It really did.
It should have been Carolina, but it was Toronto. Like, you can sum up that game by looking at a GIF of David Ayres winning and a GIF of Mitch Marner stumbling on the blue line, not knowing whether to go for the puck or not, and then just falling down and looking like an idiot.
Yeah.
So, obviously, there's a lot of Leafs fans that are pissed. I'm with you. I'm a Bruins fan. I'm glad the Leafs lost, but that's brutal. Like, you need way more. Like, they're going to get an earful from their coach after that loss.
Absolutely. I have one more thing to say. Sorry to interrupt you. It's not like this is game 1 of the season. It's not like a preseason game. This is a pivotal point.
You are fighting for your playoff lives.
This is a pivotal point in the season. You are fighting against Florida and now Montreal, who's gaining ground on you for the 3rd spot in the Atlantic and potentially a wild card position, and you're going to lose this game to a Zamboni driver? You don't deserve to be in the playoffs. You just don't.
All right. So let's jump into some of these tweets. So the game just ended, like 10 minutes ago?
Yeah.
So we're pretty fresh on this. So there'll probably be even better tweets that come out after this, but just we'll give you a couple of what we've seen that we thought were kind of funny. So first off, I'll start off with the Carolina Hurricanes, just their like corporate account or team account. They basically threw out a David Ayres appreciation tweet, and people are flooding that tweet and putting memes and GIFs and thanks, and so a lot of the thanks is going there. Next up is Kyle Bukauskas. He's the guy on Sportsnet. If you're watching the Canadian feed, he had an interview with him after the game. After the interview was done and he went into the locker room with the rest of his teammates, it says, the roar inside the Hurricanes locker room as David Ayres walked in post-game, you would think he pitched a shutout in Game 7. So the players just losing it, and obviously rightfully so. They know how great the moment is. And it was kind of funny, if you did see that on Sportsnet, Brindamore, the coach, when the goalie came into the game, he was like, oh no, we're up 3-1, like, oh no, we're going to lose this. But then after the game, he was like, yeah, good job, buddy, you did it. So that was cool. Next up, We have Sid60 from Tim and Sid. He said, if a team ever started a 42-year-old off the street against the Raptors, I'm pretty sure the Raptors would win. I thought that was pretty funny. I threw in a quote from John Shannon. He said, David gets the Hockey Night in Canada towel. I threw that in because that's the first thing I said to him after that when he was doing the interview. I was like, he gets the Hockey Night in Canada towel.
You called it.
Yeah, so that's cool. Strombone.
Luongo.
Ayres has more wins in Toronto than I do, shaking my head.
I don't know if that's actually true or not, but
I don't know either, but that's funny. Elliot Friedman said, no one who played in it or watched is ever going to forget it. Obviously not. Big moment. It started trending on Twitter. Like, he told me to look up a tweet earlier, and as soon as I hit my search button, it shows the trending tweets. The literal first word that was trending was Zamboni.
That's amazing.
Would you ever think you go on Twitter and the top trending word is Zamboni?
Never again.
Okay, Arpon Basu says, at least our team didn't lose to a Zamboni driver. It's something I imagine Leafs fans will have to hear from fans of every other NHL team until the end of time.
That's the hardest part.
Yeah, so that, again, like, Leafs fans are pissed, and I understand it. That's a brutal loss. You need more effort. Steve Dangle said the Leafs followed up a 4-0 win against the Penguins with a loss to a 42-year-old Zamboni driver who works for them. That's the best part, is the part that he works for them.
Because it's true.
So, like, we'll get to his wife's tweets in a minute, but they're obviously Leafs fans. So friends of hers are saying, we're cheering for you, but we hope he loses. And she goes, I know, I'm torn. The AHL sent out an awesome tweet. It says the AHL remains the top development league for Zamboni drivers who want to be NHL goalies.
So good.
Brian Hayes, who is the host of TSN's Overdrive, says if the Leafs lose this game, it had to be the most. Oh, that's an old tweet.
What?
If the Leafs lose this game, it had to be the most embarrassing in franchise history. Has to be. But they did lose, and it was sent after they lost.
It was sent after they lost?
Maybe it wasn't. Maybe I read it wrong. So this was sent during the game.
Yeah, it was sent.
My mistake. So he said basically, if they lose the game, it's going to be the most embarrassing in franchise history. Has to be. And they ended up losing the game.
Yeah, because that was about 30 minutes ago in the game.
Okay, that was my fault on that one. NHL Public Relations sent out a tweet, said David Ayres, 42 years, 194 days, became the oldest goaltender in NHL history to win his regular season debut. So,
that's
cool stat.
That's a record now. I'm curious to know who he stole that.
It was, the previous mark was held by Hugh Lehman, who was 41 years old and 21 days with Chicago. And then the last tweet I have is his wife saying, F me, just losing it when her husband went into the net. So, pretty cool moment for hockey fans, pretty cool moment for the NHL, pretty cool moment for her, pretty cool moment for him. Basically, awesome moment for anyone except for the Maple Leafs.
Except for the Maple Leafs, yeah. With all that said, and we, from a serious level, we talked about it. From a joking level, we talked about it. But I just wanted to mention one thing from a respect level. The players on both sides congratulating him or, giving him some props in between periods or at the end of the period or at the start of the periods or whatever. And also the Toronto Maple Leafs fans who stayed around to the end and actually clapped when he got announced as the first star. And genuinely, obviously they're upset and they're embarrassed, but out of respect, they stayed and gave him the cheers that he definitely deserved. So really good to see that from the Toronto Maple Leafs fans who did stay. But I will say that there was a lot of empty seats. It was about 7 minutes left in the third period. And I completely understand that. So any final words from you?
No, I'm just going to say that there's a lot of Toronto fans out there again that are hurting. This is a bad loss. I will say the one thing, and this is something we both talked about when we were watching the game. The Leafs didn't look like a team on the bench halfway through that third period. It was like they just knew they were going to lose. There was no communication. There was nothing. There was no gumption. There was no effort. Like, they didn't even have to have great shots. They just had to shoot.
Yeah, there was a point where Jason Spezza came in with the puck and had a lane, and he completely missed the net. And it was around the same time, like you mentioned, I think it was a commercial break, and they came back, and the players were just kind of like leaning on the benches. They weren't communicating. They were talking. There was nothing going on. They were just kind of sitting there and being dull and being upset. At this point, there was 10 minutes left or 8 or 9 minutes left. Like, there was lots of time to score 3 goals on a 42-year-old Zamboni driver, and they just couldn't do it. Like, I don't know if I've ever seen such an emotional and offensive and defensive breakdown like that from a team. It's just like, this is something you write a book about. This is something you make a movie about. Like, that's what kind of night this was. and I mean, it's just amazing. It really is just amazing.
Doing it at home is bad. That's a bad home loss. If you're on the road, whatever. Carolina has a great moment in the crowd. Your fans and watching on TV are pissed. You do that at home, that's a stinker. That's just brutal. I feel for your Toronto fans, but not that much because I'm a Boston fan. So,
yeah, I mean, if it's a Tuesday night in Arizona, this is Saturday night in Toronto, hockey night in Canada. There are probably, I mean, 700 to 900,000 people watching the game, and then once this actually started to happen, we're probably looking in millions for sure watching this game. So it is nationwide at this point. It's international at this point. It's crazy. But anyways, I feel bad for Leafs fans. I can't imagine how embarrassed they are, and I'm torn because I kind of want to chirp them a little bit. But at the same time, I know if this happened to my team, I wouldn't want people to chirp me. So I'm going to hold off a little bit because I know how upset that Leaf fans are. So anyways, thank you very much for watching the video. I really appreciate it. There's all kinds of other videos on this channel, hockey-related and non-hockey related, just lots of fun videos. So if you are new to this channel, hope you can hit the subscribe button down below and join me and Jason for future videos. We have also at the podcast channel, Post to Post Podcast. We're launching episode 100 on the new channel coming up next weekend, I believe. And we're pretty excited about that. So we can hope you can join us over there as well. Jason, thanks for joining me for this video. I appreciate it. Thank you guys for watching, and we'll catch you in the next one. Adios.